How you guys doing? Good? Well, for everybody that's heard this already, and for the teachers, thank you guys for listening again. Hopefully, each time, those of you that have heard it, you're hearing something different, and you're thinking about different things, because there's a lot to think about, and a lot to know, and a lot still that I'm learning as I'm going through this journey. And the more that I know, the more I realize I don't know. And I continue to ask questions, and I continue to try and put myself in a position of being a learner. Even though I've been to Kenya now, I don't even know, I've lost count, but since 2012, I've gone 2 to 3 to 4 times a year now, working more and more in the communities that we're serving. The more I'm there, the more I realize, wow, I could live here and probably still not know everything. And when you enter into relationship with people working, especially cross-culturally, do you guys know what that word means? I didn't actually know until I started working in another culture. Cross-culturally is where you are in a culture that is not your own, and you are interacting with, and you're building relationship, you're participating in the things that are important to them, holidays, customs, celebrations. And in doing so, you get to understand, wow, we are very different in maybe how we celebrate our birthdays. For example, when you have a birthday in Kenya, they throw water on you, and it's like a big deal, like buckets of water. And it is to celebrate, this is a new year, and it's like your birth all over again. And so they throw water on you, and it's not your birthday until someone has soaked you. And it happens multiple times throughout the day. And I don't know that I've ever been celebrated here on my birthday by being thrown, water. But that's something that you expect and you grow to enjoy. So I could appreciate their custom and why they do what they do, but otherwise, if I didn't be willing to learn, I might get super offended that they totally just soaked me, right? So vice versa, if they came here and it was their birthday and I didn't soak them, they might be like, well, why didn't they celebrate me? Don't they care, right? But I would have never known that that was what they were expecting their birthday to be, have involved. So working cross-culturally can be really amazing and exciting, but it also can be really hard because you learn about things that maybe are different and are painful that are happening in some cultures that are not happening in your own. For example, girls are often in certain tribes, not all over in Kenya, but in certain areas, are sold into marriage at age 9, 10, or 11. I don't know if you have a sibling that's maybe that age, or for the girls in the room when you were 9, 10, or 11, could you imagine being sold at that and stopping if you were in school, or just being taken away from your family to a place you didn't even know, to a person you had never met, to something, I'm not ready to cook, I don't want to go collect firewood, what? Right? And that's a really painful thing, a really hard cultural tradition that some tribes in Kenya still practice. It also happens to be illegal to practice that. And so the partners that we work with, John and Leah from Valley Light, and John and Dorcas, our other partners, a different John, in southern Kenya, they deal with issues that are both beautiful and really, really painful. And Just One Africa wants to be a good partner as we come alongside leaders that are doing really important work. Because really, if that was happening in our country where girls 9, 10, and 11 were being sold into marriage, I think that here, hopefully, you and I would do something about what was happening in our community, right? And there are things maybe in our communities that we, as we learn about them and understand, wow, this is not right. We need to do something about this, that we engage in ways that stop bad things from happening, and we speak up for those who can't speak yet for themselves, right? And so this is a way as an organization to come alongside leaders that are trying to speak up, that are trying to do this really important work, but they need help, they need friends. If you've ever tried to do something that is new for the first time, or maybe you're like, I have done this before, but I've never done it in this way, or I've never maybe taken on this size of a goal by myself, I might need to call a friend, right? Or I might need backup, or I might need somebody to help bring me food or water, or I might need, whatever, if it's sports, or if it's staying up late studying for a test, or there's something that where you stretch yourself and you have to do things that are beyond what you're comfortable doing. Well, our partners constantly, every day, are pushing themselves to do things beyond what they are comfortable doing because there are lives at stake. And the children that they care for, while they're 2 years old, they can't care for themselves yet. They need someone to care for them. And when they're 15, they need to know that doing your homework and studying is really important so they can pass their exams, so they can go on in their education. Teaching them that they're loved and that they're part of a family. And all of those things don't just happen. Just like in your families, those things don't just happen. So we need to make sure that those environments are possible for kids. And I want you guys to know that that is really important for you. It's important to me that that be available to you guys, and that you have an amazing school to come to and are supported and have opportunity for education. But in many parts around the world, especially if you're a girl, that is not an opportunity you are afforded simply because of your gender. And so our partners are fighting for the rights of the girl child and the boy child as well, but we get to come alongside them and help them in two specific areas. And this picture right here is of Dorcas. She is our partner in southern Kenya. And the two areas that we focus on are clean water and sustainability. And the clean water is really important because if you have ever been in an area where you've been not able to access clean water, I don't know if you've ever been hiking or camping and maybe you ran out of water and you're like, man, I'm so thirsty. And you can't just like go drink out of the creek or go like drink at the lake or like wherever you might be. Some people won't even like drink out of a hose, because they're not sure if it's safe. So you have to go buy something or wait till you get home. But what happens if there is no other option? What if you don't have a hose to drink out of? You only have a creek or a lake or a stream. Or maybe it rained and there's a puddle and that is your water. That's it. And so waterborne diseases are a reality that millions and millions and millions of people face. And that really is a preventative to feeling good. If you've ever had a long-term sickness, beyond just even like a few days, a week or 2 weeks, or you've had the flu, or something that has kind of taken you, sidelined you from school and all your activities, you wake up and you're just hoping tomorrow you feel better, right? I just really hope that tomorrow I'm going to feel better, and then you wake up and you don't. So like your day consists of laying around and Mom, I need chicken noodle soup, or I need Gatorade, or I need crackers, or something like. But you just don't ever feel like doing anything. You're not even like watching TV is great anymore. You're just done, right? You feel bad. And so if waterborne disease inhibits you from feeling good every single day of your life, think about just how unexcited you would be about life in general. You just constantly don't feel good. You constantly have a headache. You constantly have stomach issues. And there's no hope. That's a really hard place to live in. And so if we're able to come alongside communities that have these issues and these challenges, where parents are really wanting to provide for their families and really wanting to work, whether it's in the fields for farming, or maybe they have a small business, a shop, they sell things, or maybe they're a teacher and they need to go to school so they can teach and they can get a paycheck. If they're all sick with typhoid or an amoeba, or cholera, which are all different waterborne diseases, then families can't provide for their kids, and then they end up with no food at home, and they end up with no money for school fees, and then their kids are literally sent home from school and they're not allowed to come. What would happen if your teacher didn't show up today, or tomorrow, or the next day because they had typhoid? What would your class be like? Would that be great, or what would you think? You showed up in the morning and no teacher is there. It'd be different? What would your first thought be? Where's our teacher? And then what? And there are no subs. Then what, right? Who knows who's smart in here? Like, who knows what we got to do? Because I don't have the answers, right? Like maybe you were supposed to be preparing for your exams, and the teacher was about to start all of your review so that way you could do well on your exams. And she's gone or he's gone. You're like, oh, shoot. What are we going to do? And then nobody's there to give you the exam. And then no one's there to give you the exam. And then no one takes the exam, and then you just, well, you can't pass because you didn't take the exam, and your teacher just never comes back to school. What would that do to your future? What grade are you guys in? 8th? All of you are in 8th? 11th? Okay, so 8th and 11th. Think about what you know and where you are in life and what's ahead of you. Like what's just ahead of you. And what if today all of your education just stopped and you were responsible for providing for yourself from here on out? What would your life look like? Today, tomorrow, in a year, in 5 years? That was it. You fell so far behind that there was no way. It was absolutely impossible to catch up. Your teacher never came back. The other classes, continued. Would you be able to go to high school, finish your high school, or go to college? Probably not. What kind of a job could you get? Would you ever be able to own a car? Could you ever, own a house or rent? What were your options in life? What kinds of credentials would be required of you? So education is super limiting or freeing, right? And all of it was dependent. Your future was the fact that your teacher got typhoid. Messed you all up. So the fact that waterborne disease impacts a whole community isn't just maybe the fact that it's in your home, although I guarantee you if your teacher doesn't have it, you most likely don't have clean water either. But just one person, like a leader in a community, if they're absent, even for a small amount of time, a lot of bad can happen. And so we want to make sure that whether we're working in schools, clinics, hospitals, children's homes, churches, families, that there are clean water tools available for the community. And so the clean water is a door opener. In southern Kenya, where Dorcas is, they sell girls into marriage at a very young age. And they have practices and traditions that are illegal. Like you can go to prison for them, but because it's so firmly held to, they are still practiced because they believe that it's their right. And so it happens underground. And no one talks about, or they use certain words that are different, or they do it right now actually in Kenya is the holidays. So in Kenya, school starts in January, and it runs through, obviously, the end of the year, but school ends in October, and they have November and December off. And this is the time that girls are circumcised and girls are sold into marriage, November and December. And these are very, very high-risk months. It's really, really awful, and it's evil, and it's illegal. But it still happens because of deeply rooted tradition and culture. And so by partnering with leaders like John and Dorcas and John and Leah at Valley Light, they are eyes and ears into the community. And because of the relationships that they have and that have been developed because of clean water, we get to have access to communities that are new to them and new to us simply because they need clean water. So maybe half of you live in the city, the town, small city, and maybe half of you live out far away, but all of you needed clean water. And we were able to reach the people first around Maimahiu, first in where Valley Light is. And you guys all saw John and Leah come in and out, and you learned about the fact they were caring for kids, and you heard that they cared for people and that John was a pastor, and maybe you even came and asked for work. People come and knock on the gates all the time, lots of women asking for jobs. And the day came where water filters were being distributed, and you learned that you could get on a list, and you shared this is a need for our family, and so you received a filter. And now you have no more waterborne disease, and you are working, and you are sending your kids to school, and you are feeding them, and life is better. Struggles still, right? But it's better. And word travels because maybe your sister lives out here in the rural community, and your brother is maybe the chief elder, right? And now you've said, hey, actually, we have this filter and it helps us give clean water. And so your brother and your sister, like, hey, could they come to our community? And maybe they're practicing these traditions that I shared about. And so we get invited, asked to come out here. And you guys gather your people around, your families. The men sit on one side, the women sit on the other. Usually we're underneath a big acacia tree. And we get to share with them about the importance of hygiene and sanitation. Meanwhile, we're watching, and our partners are looking. They're trying to figure out, like, where are the young girls? Or sometimes we see them, like, with the goats or the sheep, or, like, we're talking, like, traditional mud huts and circles, and, like, we're just paying attention, right? But we're here for building relationship, and we're here for water. But we also have another agenda because we want to learn what's happening out here in this rural community. But they've asked us to come. And so we do the training and we do the water filters, and then we get invited back because we're also doing data collection and follow-up programs, and we help answer questions and solve problems with the filters. There's no problems with the filters, but if there's any issues like that, we help, but we collect data, so we have the information for our program. Meanwhile, these women, we share when we're over here and we're doing the training how we believe in women, how we want to encourage, and it's good to educate your girls. And they'll sit there and they'll listen to us because they're respectful, and we're here working together. But there's somebody in the crowd that heard what we said. And maybe you come up to me afterwards, or you come up to Dorcas and you call her aside. We're busy doing our distribution with lots of people. And maybe you share that you know about this girl that's about to be sold. And nobody, you have to do it really carefully because there's a lot of retaliation and a lot of, upheaval that happens when you interrupt people's traditions and the things that they believe deeply. But there's somebody that doesn't believe that's what should happen. Or maybe she's the mom of the daughter and her husband is forcing her daughter to go through this. And so the wife needs to speak up, but she also knows if she does, she's at risk for being beat or killed herself because she basically will stop the sale of her daughter, right? And so the family won't receive their goats or their cows or their sugar or whatever that girl's worth. And so it's a real delicate process of building relationship and finding who are the people of peace in those communities and how do we begin this dialogue and how do we keep girls safe. So as we have built the relationships in community, we have learned that water is a conduit for so much more besides just health. And the issues around keeping girls safe and educating and like human rights are like just as important as clean water. So we have learned through this process that the relationships we build are really important, not just for helping communities thrive with health, but if you've never thought of how important clean water is, which before I did this, I didn't even realize that it would give us opportunity to talk about issues like that in communities. I didn't even know what those issues that was happening were about. And I have girls, but I didn't know because that cross-culturally was not my tradition and not my experience in growing up. But now I cannot unknow what I know, and I cannot unknow that I know that this happens to girls, my daughter's ages. And so as I learn what the priorities are of our partners, then I get to come alongside and see if it's in our lane. Because if our partners have less girls to rescue and less children that are abandoned, then that's good. We want to stop and be proactive and not just always reactive. So that kind of was a lot around clean water, but just trying to get you guys thinking about how far-reaching and how deep the issues are in culture and how much something as simple as water can be that connector. What time is it? How much time do we have? Okay, we're going to watch this video. I know that some of you have seen it already, but for those of you that haven't, we'll watch it and then we'll do some follow-up at the end. But I think this will help you understand a little bit more of the areas that we serve and think about what I just shared and what that might mean for your family or for your life, or maybe if that was your sister, right? Maybe what this would mean for the future of your family and the relationships that could be formed, and then the sustainability projects that we do and how that is important in providing the tools our partners need to care for the kids that they've rescued or have become their family. everyone. This is Amy, and I'm Director of Operations for Just One Africa. Thank you so much for allowing us to be part of your program today. We're really excited to share with you about the work that we do in Kenya. We hope today that you're going to leave inspired and challenged and encouraged. Each of us are just one, and each of us can make a difference in this world. Kenya is a beautiful place full of amazing creatures and animals that we see literally as we're just driving around. We eat really delicious food. We hear beautiful music and songs and get to be a part of dance parties. It's awesome. It's a place full of really rich culture and tradition. And we've gotten a chance to come alongside some really incredible people. And I want to share about our story of how we do that and why it's so important. Just One Africa partners with local leaders to care for vulnerable children, specifically with sustainability solutions, and also those impacted by the clean water crisis. When we started Just One Africa back in 2012, our family had just come off of a trip, and we had partnered with a children's home. And while we were overwhelmed at the number of people that needed these solutions, we also realized that even if we couldn't do it for everybody, working with this group of kids was still worth it. Mother Teresa said, if I look at the masses, I won't ever act, but if I look at the one thing, I will. And these group of children were our one thing. And so we launched Just One Africa. We partnered with this group of kids and many other groups to be able to see the same solutions duplicated in many parts in Kenya. Clean water is a huge, huge, huge issue, not just in Kenya, but all over the world. There are lots of people that have access to water, whether it's a stream or a creek or a lake, or maybe they get it where the cows are getting their water or the elephants are getting their water. And that water, can you imagine, is not very clean. There's waterborne diseases, there's worms, there's all kinds of things you don't want to be drinking, and it really causes a lot of problems, diseases, and even people die from that. There's a couple different ways to gather water, and depending upon where you're gathering it from, you might use a different kinds of containers. Those containers, most of the time, are never clean. So even if you had access to a well that had clean water, that water would be contaminated, right? Once it went into that dirty container, so you still have a problem. That water is full of contamination. It's got typhoid and cholera and bacteria that's going to make you sick. That sickness is going to keep you from school, and you're not going to be able to grow and pursue the things that you want to be, all because of one thing, water. There's lots of ways to carry water. Kids might carry it on their head. They might strap it to their forehead and carry it on their back. These containers weigh between 30 and 40 pounds. That's like carrying a small child on your head. It's really, really difficult, but they do it every day, multiple times a day. And unfortunately, because it takes so much time, kids don't go to school just because they have to fetch water. And that shouldn't be. We want kids to make sure they have access to education, and they also have access to safe, clean water. The water filters that Just One Africa uses are created after kidney dialysis. This is hollow fiber membrane technology. It's used by gravity. So as you can see, the top bucket full of dirty water flows down into the clean water bucket simply through the filter that's attached. It flows through very, very, very small tubes that collect all of the contamination and the bacteria and the disease and only allow clean, safe water to pass through, which is what you see here at the bottom. This water is as safe and as clean as the water that you also get out of your home. And it's such an incredible privilege to be able to partner with communities to give them access also to the same safe, clean water for their families, for their children, for the opportunity for them to be able to have a healthier life and hope for tomorrow, knowing that this isn't going anywhere. This is a sustainable solution for the communities we serve. $65 does 1 million gallons, which is what one filter provides. It saves lives, and it absolutely transforms the futures of the people that we serve. A part of what we do when we do our water filter distributions, when we walk into communities and we build relationships, is we teach them about sanitation and hygiene. We want to make sure that we don't just give them a filter, but we also equip them with the understanding and the knowledge how to use it and also how to keep their families safe, because those habits are going to take them the distance to remain healthy and strong and for their kids to grow and to be able to learn and go to school and not have any problems. 96% of the time, waterborne diseases have decreased, meaning no one is contracting typhoid where water has typhoid in it. There's no cholera, no one has died. Kids are going to school, parents are working, And the community is able to thrive in a new way with hope, knowing that tomorrow when they wake up, that clean water is still going to be there. The way that Just One Africa partners is through local leaders. We don't just come into an area and decide to do something, but we make sure that we build relationships with people who are close to the problems, close to the challenges, and we ask a lot of questions. We work with local leaders throughout Kenya that are doing really important work. They help us provide access to communities that need the clean water and also who care for some really amazing kids. The sustainability projects that Just One Africa partners with our local leaders on look a lot of different ways because of the unique needs of our partners. Sometimes it centers around agriculture, allowing them to be able to plow and harvest and plant and do all those things that they need to be able to feed themselves and the kids that they care for. It also generates income from the sales of the extra food, allowing them to use that for other needs they have, like school fees or medical care. These are long-term sustainability solutions that we're listening to from our partners because of what they're telling us, and we're making plans to partner with them in really important ways. So in spite of all of those challenges, there is a solution, and we want to invite you guys to be a part of it. This is an amazing opportunity for you to have a hands-on impact in a global issue that also makes a global difference, one person at a time. And how we do that is by partnering with a group of Maasai moms. They live in southern Kenya. They make these beautiful necklaces out of recycled magazines, one bead at a time. They hand roll them out of paper, and they string them together into these beautiful, colorful necklaces. We buy the necklaces at a price they set, allowing them to support themselves, empowering them to pay school fees and provide food and all the important things that moms want to do for their kids. We then bring those necklaces back, and the necklaces we then work with students. We have clubs called I Am One. We have volunteer opportunities for schools and churches and other volunteer organizations to partner with us. And those beads are then strung together into beautiful bracelets, just like I'm wearing. These bracelets are then sold online at our store and then throughout the community at local events. And 100% of the income, 100%, all of it, goes back to our clean water program. And we can do that because you are involved. You volunteer and you help us make a difference. One bracelet provides 200,000 gallons of clean water. It's amazing what one bracelet can do. The heartbeat of Just One Africa is the one person. And the one person in this picture is of a really special little girl. Unfortunately, her family didn't think she was so special because she looked different than her Kenyan brothers and sisters. And because of that, she was not wanted and accepted into the family. She didn't even have a name. Can you believe that? But the woman who received her at the children's home happened to really love music. And so because of that, her name was Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is now 4 years old. She's in preschool, and she's able to pursue her education. She has quality medical care and food, and she has access to clean water because of our work with her partner that cares for her, and it's been an amazing opportunity to show care to one person. We don't have to change the whole world, but if we change the world of the person in front of us, that's what's worth our time, that's worth our investment, that's worth our care and our thoughts. Remember that you are just one person, but you can make a difference in their life. I want you to put up one finger right now. Yeah, everybody put up one finger. Okay, you ready? I want you to repeat after me. Say, I am just one.
I am just one.
Okay, let's say that again. Say, I am just one.
I am just one.
Say, I can change my world. All right, let's say that again. Ready? I am just one. I can change my world. So I want to leave you guys with a quote from Mother Teresa. And she said, if you can't feed 100 people, then feed just one. You have an opportunity to make a difference, and I do too. If you want to partner with Just One Africa, you can go to justoneafrica.org, and you can learn more all about our programs and about the ways that we serve in Kenya and we work locally. If you want to buy one of these great bracelets or give it as a gift, you can look us up online as well for that. Thank you guys so much for your attention today and for allowing us to be part of your program. Remember that it takes just one person to make a difference. Have a great day.
Are really where the elephants get their water.
The places in southern Kenya have a ton of wildlife that goes through there. And so those water holes that you saw, they're called water pans. That is where wildlife and humans collect their water. And you only should go certain times of the day because you don't want to interrupt an elephant when you're trying to collect water. So the issues around that water, aside from seeing that it's super dirty, lots of animals also use those sources. And the areas that you saw, I don't know if you saw the mud huts in that circle, and the different kinds of community that we serve, a lot of it's very rural, and so not a lot of services and development happen. That's not to say that all of Kenya looks like that, because if you go into major cities, and there are major cities, it looks very much like Atlanta or Birmingham, someplace with huge shopping malls and tons of traffic and very fancy cars and high-rise buildings. So there is a lot of similarities to here, but also you might have cows grazing on the side of the freeway and in and out of traffic. So there's some differences, which you can appreciate, but also a lot of similarities. And the Clean Water Program has been something that has been really helpful for the kids that our partners care for and also for the communities. And so here's just a few bits of information about that. The follow-up program, the top left picture, that's in my Mahiu, where we go literally home to home or hut to hut, and we ask the same set of questions that we collect when we pass out filters. So we're comparing apples to apples, and we're able to learn how much money they're saving per month, how many days have they gained where they were missing before for school or for work. So that way we're able to quantitatively be able to have a good assessment and report back to our donors, and also knowing that our life's work is paying off and that it's important and it's moving the needle for these families in terms of their health. My favorite question to ask is, what are you now doing with the money you were saving now that you're not spending 2,000 shillings a month on medical care? And moms proudly share. They are so excited, and it's not like, that's none of your business. You know, like here we would be like, that's private, you know, like here it's so different. But they're like, let me tell you, I am paying my school fees on time. My kids are no longer being sent home. And so they're not ashamed. They're able to provide for their family. The second thing is they are diversifying their diet. So maybe if they were just eating 2 different things, maybe now they're eating greens, or they've been able to buy fruit or meat once a week or something like that. And that's good. And then the third thing that moms tell me is that they're starting businesses. So think about, and you guys have heard of loans. You guys know what a loan is, right? Yeah, so there's microloans that a lot of people talk about and using in areas to help generate opportunity for business, but you know, people have to pay them back and that sort of thing. So there's a lot to learn about microloans around the world, but this isn't like I gave her money and I lent it to her. This is literally her reinvesting the money she's saving because she's a good steward, and then she's bettering her family with it. And so that's really exciting from just the overflow of the benefit of having health. The middle picture is Lucy, and she's collecting water from Mount Kilimanjaro. Have you guys heard of Mount Kilimanjaro? It's the tallest point in all of Africa, and it's the tallest freestanding mountain. And there's snow at the top, and so when the snow melts, that is the water source that the people in southern Kenya use for their water. Unfortunately, because it's also an open trough, it also carries tons of waterborne disease. And people use it for their laundry. On laundry days, up and down the concrete channel, if there's bushes, all of their laundry is just, the ladies are cleaning it in the trough, that cement area, and then it's just laid out all over the bushes, and the sun dries it over the course of the day. But animals, herds of goat or cows will come up and just drink straight out of it. So it's highly contaminated, not the best for cooking or even really washing your clothes, but it's what's available, and so that's what people use. Here's a picture of a water source that we also encountered on our June trip to Kenya. This is water that's coming out of Mount Kilimanjaro, and they funneled it into a tube, and it's able to a little bit easier fill up. But if you leaned into the hole where the water was kind of pooling, it's just like moss is growing, and like it looks like under the ground. It's just a spring, and so there's tons of typhoid and amoebas that are in this water. This is another water source that we collected water from for our filter distribution because we want to show the power of the filter and also the conjunction between clean water and health. And so this actually had swimming amoebas, worms in it. And that, as you know, if you've ever had a stomach ache or vomiting or diarrhea, that is not fun. But imagine day after day after day after day that that's the issue. And so being able to put a stop to that is really amazing. Sustainability. That's a term that we use for something that's long-lasting, something that is good and helpful, and we want the solutions that we work with our partners on to be helpful and good and long-lasting. And in doing so, it allows our partners to generate either food, milk from cows, and it translates into happy kids and kids that are well cared for, either because milk is provided, food is provided, and you guys are probably happier once you've eaten, right? If you ever get hangry, you're hungry and angry, you're hangry. So we want these kids to be able to have consistent good food and nutrition with milk, clean water, and then the food and the milk that's extra can be sold and paid for their school fees and other needs that they have. We talked a little bit about education and how important that is, especially for girls. Boys as well, because we need boys and girls to be leaders in their communities in all offices of leadership in their community, whether those are well-educated and good character, people of good character that are parents, or whether they're in government, or whether they're medical, or they're in education, or business. We need people who know who they are and they know how to treat other people well. And so being intentional, our partners, with the kids they're caring for is really important in providing that. The beads that you guys saw out in the lobby that make up our Christmas ornaments, make up our bracelets and necklaces, all of those are made out of recycled magazines. And the women string them after they've rolled the paper into beads, and then we use 100% of the funds from the products to go back into our clean water program and our sustainability program. So any funds that you guys have purchased items, or maybe your parents have shopped online or given a donation towards the project for Valley Light, 100% of that is going to help with the water solution for Valley Light and a security wall and bringing electricity. Today is actually Giving Tuesday. Do you guys know what Giving Tuesday is? Have you ever heard of Giving Tuesday? Y'all know what Black Friday is, right? And Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday, and then it's Giving Tuesday. And it actually is a national movement called Giving Tuesday, and it is a day that hopefully the world focuses on giving back. And so there are lots of nonprofits and organizations specifically today raising funds for their programs, for their year-end campaigns. We have one going right now on Facebook and on our website to raise funds for the electricity needed for Valley Light. And so I'm hopeful that through people's generosity and the realization that, hey, what I do, whether that's the opportunity to buy a bracelet that gives back, or to donate $20 or donate $1,000, that today is a day to celebrate the fact that we all have something to give and be a part of something that's bigger than ourselves. So the beads, you can definitely find tons of those in the lobby or on our store online. This is a picture of John and Leah and the kids. You may have seen a photo similar to this, but there are 31 precious lives from about 2 years old all the way up to your age that they care for. And we're in the process of building a new home for them outside of the town of Maimahiu. I don't know if you saw the aerial footage in the video. There was a really big building with a roof on it, and the road right there, and that was Valley Light. And so it's very important that we move them out of the center of town out to a much safer location. And so that's what we're currently focused on right now. If you guys want to learn more about what we do, specifically with Valley Light or any of the other programs we have, you can look us up on the World Wide Web, justoneafrica.org, or you can follow along on social media. I'm sure you've heard of that. And it's a great way to stay connected to the work that's happening in Kenya. And when we're there and we're able to post updates, you can track along with our distributions and with the projects and any updates from Valley Light when I'm there in the field, We actually have a couple teachers coming from Westminster in January with me to come and to see and to learn and to ask questions. So I hope that today gave you guys some things to also think about and to reflect on. I know some of it was deep, some of it maybe was new, and like, how can that be happening in the world today, or to girls my age, or how this would look if my education happened to be interrupted by waterborne disease. It's a lot to think about, and there's opportunity to get involved and make a difference in many different ways. But part of it is asking good questions and learning about things that often are different than us, so that way we can care about the things that are happening in other people's worlds. So I think we just have a few minutes left in case we have any questions or thoughts. But if anybody has a question about work in Kenya or Valley Light, yeah. So the question was, do I know where the women get the magazines? So there is some distributors in Nairobi, which is the capital, that give the seconds, like the issues that aren't bought or leftover issues. There's a phone carrier, like we have AT&T or Verizon. There's one there called Safaricom, and they gave all of their like marketing brochures, which is like a green. You'll see the mini wrap bracelets out there that are like lime green. All of that was made out of their marketing materials. So like if you saw the photos of the mud huts and that sort of area, they're really not magazines down there. They more so come from Nairobi, and then our partners bring them down. So they're able to get them. We don't need donations of magazines. People ask me that all the time. Super thoughtful, but they're actually able to get magazines in Kenya. So, any other questions? Yeah. That's a great question. For most people in the areas that we serve, that is a lifetime of water for them. That filter only just needs to be backflushed with a syringe, and we walk them through the process. It is amazing. The patent was actually expired on that technology, the hollow fiber membrane. So whoever invented it let the patent expire. And so it's now available it has been for a long time for people to use. So there's many different filters, companies that have used it with varying degree of quality of materials and design. Not all of them are created equal. But our U.S. military use this technology because when soldiers are in the field or they're out doing humanitarian work or there's been a natural disaster, the first thing you need is water. And cholera and typhoid spread like wildfire in areas that are natural disasters, or where you're having crises or terrorist activities. And so these filters are amazing because they're gravity fed and they need no replaceable parts. So they're really great for just like emergency preparedness, have one at home just in case kind of thing. But the million gallons is, they do not have washing machines, toilets, showers, they're not flowing water like we are. So it really does a bucket at a time. But good question. So, all right, thank you guys so much. You have a great rest of your afternoon. And I hope that you have a great Christmas. And you guys are dismissed.